People of Reddit whose profession requires you to enter people's home, realtors, appraisers, contractors, plumbers, etc. What's the strangest, scariest, nastiest, or most disturbing thing you've ever seen or experienced? I used to install insulation under floor and ceiling. Fun fact, if your cat is old and/or sick and suddenly goes missing, there's a good chance that it's crawled under the house to die. And dead cats don't just magically evaporate. Cut to me crawling under a house, turning a corner and coming face to face with a zombie-ass looking half-decomposed cat on more than one occasion. That would definitely freak me out. On a personal note, I'm pretty sure that's what happened with my hamster. When I was young I had a hamster that was a master at escaping his cage. We should have named him Houdini. We tried everything to keep the cage door shut short of welding it, but a couple mornings a week I'd wake up and he'd be missing. We always found him with the help of the family dog who sniffed him out but never tried biting the little guy. Until one day when the dog couldn't find the hamster. We all looked everywhere, all his usual hiding places, everywhere else we could think of. We searched for days. And then the days turned to weeks, and weeks to months. Being a naive little girl, I hoped he had simply gotten outside and gone on an adventure and would come back, but he obviously never did. Loudly crying face. Now my family occasionally mentions the Houdini hamster and wonders where we'll eventually find his remains. I am a probate and estate lawyer in the UK, and I used to deal with estates where the person died with no known relatives initially, and then heir hunters would trace relatives and we would deal with the estate on their behalf. I used to have to go to properties to look for paperwork for the estate, so I would be in these houses mostly alone. One such house, the guy had died in his lounge and not been discovered for some time, so when I went in there was basically a person-shaped piece of carpet cut out of the lounge and dead flies everywhere. On the sofa was a cardboard box about 3 foot square, and it was filled with those plastic multi-CD holders, which were in turn filled with porn DVDs. There was more porn on a bookcase that spanned the length of the lounge, and, whilst looking through a file for bank statements, a picture fell out of a man. The picture didn't include his head, who was handcuffed to his own testicles and penis. I didn't look at the guy's laptop, I sent it for professional destruction. Another property you could only get into it through the garage, so I opened the door, walked into the garage, straight into a large pair of men's underpants that were hanging from a washing line in the garage. I think they were clean, but I did not inspect them. Upstairs in the same guy's house, we found letters between him and women he wrote to in personal ads that were very sexually explicit. He also had a sheet of paper that he used to check how certain words were spelled, before writing them in the letters, i.e. clitoris, clitoris, etc. Another house was when I worked for a different firm and it was owned by an elderly lady who had appointed my firm as executors. Same drill, I was going there to look for asset paperwork to begin the administration, and, when I started looking through drawers in a cabinet, I kept finding cash stuffed in old post envelopes. When I got to £5,000 I called the office and told them I needed someone here with me to confirm the cash we found, to protect me against any accusations of improper conduct. By the time we had been through the whole house, we had found over £15,000 in cash, stuffed in old envelopes and in the bottoms of drawers. Last house, I was there packing up personal items ready to be shipped to beneficiaries in the UK and abroad. I was there by myself, and so I had the radio on. The silence is a little eerie when I heard the front door open. I called out, no answer. Check the hallway, door is closed. Carry on. Door opens again, so I go check, door is still closed. I am getting a bit freaked now, so start packing a bit quicker when the door opens and slams shut again. I grabbed my shit and booked it out of there and refused to go back by myself. My boss laughed at me and said maybe the lady didn't like you rummaging through her stuff, but I went back with a colleague and packed the rest of the stuff without incident. Former cable guy here. We all have similar stories of nudity, hoarders, swarms of roaches, pet filth and that sort of stuff. Had a coworker that was working on a lady's bedroom TV outlet once. Nice enough house, fairly clean, and just a normal lady that was visiting with him as he worked. Suddenly he heard loud farts, shitting, and looked up in horror as she just casually sat on the toilet just feet away and kept talking to him with the door open. People are weird. My dad once witnessed a woman commit suicide and was arrested for murder. He'd been pegged as a hitman, a nickname that morbidly stuck with his friend's story. Back in the 70s, my dad was testing fire alarms in a high-rise outside Washington, D.C. Residents had been given ample notice, and as my dad approached the next unit, he saw the door ajar. After a few knocks on the open door, my dad walked in and asked if anyone was home. This woman, dressed apparently in lingerie, walked into the living room, saw my dad, and ran and jumped off her balcony. She died upon impact. In the news article, it said that investigators found arsenic in her coffee, a homemade bomb that failed to detonate under her car, and several odd traps set to kill her. Since my dad was there, he was arrested. It took 10 days to clear his name, and for investigators to find her ex-husband guilty. My dad had just started seeing my mom at the time. Talk about a leap of faith. After that, my dad's friends referred to him as Hitman. My dad's email address and license plate all said Hitman. When I was in high school, my car broke and I had to drive his blacked-out SUV to school for a few days. People stopped picking on me when they saw the tag. Both of my parents are deceased now, but I have the newspaper article somewhere, and the memory of my dad telling the story. EDTA, I'll try to find the article today after work. My parents' stuff has sat boxed up for 4 years, as I can't bring myself to sift through it all. I'll rummage through a few and see if it surfaces. I can't help but wonder if your dad was actually lucky to be arrested. It sounds like he might have died from some stupid trap there had he done his job. Sorry to hear that he's passed on. That's a very interesting story. Thanks for sharing it. There was a girl that I was tutoring who had a giant poster of Justin Bieber on her wall decorated with post-it notes that had quotes hand-written with each letter in different colors. Some of them were cute, fun, but some were a little weird and very short, like "I'm watching" or just a single "yes." Real estate investor here. Went to look at a compound for an investment opportunity once. The drive back was down a small pavement road that eventually turned to gravel that then turned to dirt. It was about 20 miles from any civilization and up in the hills. No cell service and no people for what was probably miles. The place was surrounded by huge walls and a huge wooden gate. The compound had a main house and then several little shackles around. I could just tell something was off from the get-go. As I start touring the individual shacks, I see that the windows are barred. I look inside to find nothing but a bed and shackles. There were 5 separate shacks, each with a pair of bed and shackles. After doing some research, I come to find the place was taken after the owners were caught keeping people up in the backwoods hills for who knows how long. Not mine, but a buddy as an exterminator. Usually they get called to offices or other large businesses, rarely homes. He went to a home for a small roach problem, way more roaches than what would be considered small, but not the worst he had seen, and he said he would have been able to handle it, but he also saw bed bugs on the kitchen floor. Bed bugs don't like to be in the open like that, which was a red flag. He asked to take a look around. Their couch and bed were loaded with the things. Tells them the only way to rid them at this point is to throw out the bed and couch, take every bit of clothing and anything made of fabric to a laundromat and blast them in a dryer on highest setting, and have their house bug bombed. They get upset at this suggestion and he ends up not doing anything about the roaches or bed bugs. He keeps an extra set of clothes in his truck, and being paranoid about bringing the little bastards into his truck or worse into his home, he strips naked in front of their house, throws his work clothes in the bed of the truck, puts on his extra set, and threw his work clothes in a burn barrel when he got home at the end of the day. Said it was the worst case of bed bugs he had ever seen. Me and my coworker responded to a clogged toilet, basically an everyday thing. When we arrive to the house, we can see this guy in the top window of the house, looking pretty strangely at us, but we think nothing of it. We knock on the door and this lovely young woman opens the door. She shows us the toilet and it's a pretty quick fix. She is standing over us looking while we're working and pretty clearly trying to learn how to do it herself, so I jokingly say, "You could just have your husband do it for you." She starts to tear a little but hides it pretty well. She then explains to us that he died overseas a couple months ago. I quickly apologize and try to explain that I thought it was her husband in the window upstairs. I really didn't know what to say, and I felt really bad. I have never seen a face turn white that fast. Before I knew it, she was on the phone with 911. We stayed with her until the police arrived, and they cleared the house. In the upstairs bedroom they found a known sex offender hiding in a floor-to-ceiling closet. Creepiest work day of my career by far. Thank you for watching. I hope that you liked this video. Be sure to subscribe for more videos like this one.